Hi, Maria. Maria is the co-founder of the Ottawa Institute of Logotherapy, and we are very happy to have her with us this evening.
Thank you very much, Lorena. And I want to start with a very warm welcome to all of you to this recording. And many greetings to Leticia. I have followed her work for a very long time, and I know that it is a privilege to be participating in this class and to be able to record something valuable and hopefully something meaningful that can contribute to her efforts. I know that she's wonderful, an excellent teacher, and it is my heartfelt congratulations for this group and well wishes for the success of it, especially because it's a graduating class. So from my heart to your heart, even though there is a distance in miles, in spirit we are together and we work together. And it is an honor for me to be able to contribute to this work. Thank you very much for the invitation, Lorena. And you gave me a couple of questions to start with. So I'm going to, without further hesitation, just start talking about how do I keep the flame of logotherapy alive? What do I do to contribute to logotherapy in the world? So those people who know me may know that I have been active in a logotherapy field now for very many years. I have known about the work of Viktor Frankl and Elizabeth Lucas since I was a child. And my father was a psychiatrist in our old country, which was the former Yugoslavia. And we moved to Canada in 1991, where the first opportunity that I had was to ask Dr. Lucas on the phone, where could I study logotherapy? So she recommended the Institute of Dr. Burns in Texas. And there I had a chance to study with wonderful people and even to meet Dr. Lucas when she came to visit and to give presentations. So that was my introduction to logotherapy. Later, I was very fortunate. I managed to even study with Dr. Lucas in Fürstenfeldbruck in Germany. So I have a certificate from Dr. Lucas's institute, as well as from the American Institute in the United States. What do I do to keep the flame of logotherapy alive? I have felt that my spirit is always pulling, gravitating toward logotherapy. This has to do partially with my past. My great-grandparents have been in the Holocaust. My great-grandfather perished in the Holocaust. He died in Auschwitz. My grandfather was in the work camps during the Second World War. And when he came back, he did not talk about any of his memories. When I tried to approach this topic with other people, they told me that most likely it was because my grandfather wanted to protect us from these memories. So he would not talk openly. But I was a very curious child, and I would spend hours listening to my grandfather telling stories, teaching me German, teaching me from his experiences otherwise. But we avoided talking about what happened during the war. Occasionally it came up. So when I first read Man's Search for Meaning, it was in Germany, when I was there studying German. And it resonated with me like no other book that I have read before. I was, even though it was in German and I didn't speak too much German, I was a bit crying and crying, but I understood the message of the book and I understood what happened actually in the camps. I was very fortunate to read Man's Search for Meaning because I find it a very uplifting way of reflecting on the experience and a hopeful way of presenting the message and the legacy of that great suffering that people experienced in the concentration camp. So I know that the legacy of my loved ones, of my family, of those who died, is a great example to follow, and it is there regardless of whether they physically survived or not. This is a spiritual legacy that is entrusted to us, that came from this great suffering. And Viktor Frankl said that we all have our Holocaust. We all have ways in which we suffer. And that's how I relate to the suffering of people who come to my office. Whether that suffering would be great suffering or small suffering, one cannot compare suffering with suffering, Viktor Frankl said, because it is like gas that fills a chamber. So we are there to listen, and we are there to accept people as they are, as they come to us, and to trust that we would be able to listen well enough, that we can infer and listen to sparks of hope. And if we listen carefully enough, we can understand their will to meaning speaking to us. And we do not need to force people. We do not need to count on our own strength to make them become better, but we can rely on their own strength that is going to help them lift themselves up, lift up their body and mind through the powers and resources of the human spirit. What do I do concretely to keep the flame alive? I have been writing articles and books. Whenever something significant comes to my mind, whenever something happens, whenever especially I found difficult situations I go through, I write down my thoughts, my feelings, and my reaction. So it is very important in logotherapy. We are not only talking about a reaction as a response, but a thought through, reflected through response to what among the possibilities would be the best under a circumstance to do. So I follow this principle with my patients as well in practice. Think about what happened, describe it. Think about the facts, describe your feelings, describe what you think about this. But beyond that, think about the possibilities that are present. Think about what is still left. Think about what is open. Think about, then we go to the resources of the human spirit, our inner attitude, our inner freedom to take a stand to the circumstances. So over the course of years, I have written about 15 books now, and the latest book has been a textbook. It was a summary of logotherapy, a complete textbook on logotherapy, Viktor Frankl's Logotherapy and Existential Analysis, which appeared this year. There are many other books that are complementary to this book. And in addition, there are a lot of research articles that I collect. I read continuously. I try to follow the developments. It's very important. I would like to advise this, that you will find that this community that you can form through the Association of Logotherapy in Mexico, through other institutes, to keep that collegiality, because we support each other, we talk to each other, and we uphold common values. And that I like to refer to as little oases of meaning. So it's like a little community, a group where we support each other, where we lift each other up, where we reinforce the good that we know to be true. In addition to that, there was something else I wanted to mention, and that is about reading Viktor Frankl's books. So many people think that they read Viktor Frankl's books and then tick, 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 they are done. Now they have read the last book, finished, closed, put it on the shelf. Well, I'm finding that with Viktor Frankl's books and with the logotherapy's books, one is to read and reread those books, because one is going to increase one's understanding. And as one goes through difficult times, take again the book, see if something speaks to you, speak something to your heart. And you will see that there will be different perspectives, different ways of understanding, a depth and a height of understanding that one was not aware of before. So you are going to keep growing as a logotherapist. Formation doesn't end with the last class. Real life is calling, and the formation continues. One becomes a wiser person, a more well-formed person. And I'm finding, I'm going to tell you my secret. My secret is that when you read those books of Viktor Frankl, he said that whatever is really important about logotherapy, authentic logotherapy, is in his books. So through his books, he speaks to your spirit, speaks to us in spirit. So whenever I'm reading his books, I feel that we have that connection. Viktor Frankl speaks to me, and I can ask Viktor Frankl's opinion about something, and I will find something in his books that relates maybe to that particular situation I'm going through. Maybe a difficult condition, maybe a challenge, maybe a difficult person who on the surface, I don't know, and immediately, I don't know exactly what even to say. And Viktor Frankl sometimes says, do not say too much, listen. And Dr. Lucas says the same, Listen. Listen to the traces of meaning in your patient's words. Listen to the melody of their hearts. And so this is what Viktor Frankl's books reinforce, and they provide technical, practical tools with which we can become more effective as therapists. And then we can help people really shine. And really sometimes there are changes of life, but not because we affect those changes, but because the strength is within people. The will to meaning is already within. We have this unique capacity through the spirit, through our conscience, to intuit what is the meaning of the moment for us in our particular moment, in our particular situation. And that is our task as logotherapists, to gather up and to collect and to reinforce, to point out what people have already collected in their past. What is it that they can say, what they have safely stored? What is it they are bringing with them? What is it that has been meaningful in their lives? What is it that in the present moment is waiting for them maybe to be accomplished? And then to open perspectives to the future, different avenues. What is still waiting maybe? What is still there to be done? So it's a threefold view. One to the past, one to the present, and one to the future. And that's like an optometrist, you see, who helps us to see close. You see, I have these glasses that are for close vision and distance vision. And in logotherapy, we help both. What is close? What is the immediate? What is waiting for us right now? And distance. What is it that we already have accomplished in the distant past? What is it we carry with us that no one can erase, no one can take away from us? It's ours, meaningful and accomplished, and remains with us forever. And what is it that still remains in the future to be accomplished? Now, maybe if you have any questions, Lorena, I would like to stop here for a while. And if not, I would move on to an illustration then.
I think everything is so clear. So please continue, Maria.
All right, thank you. All right, so there is one example that I wrote in a book, that I wrote about in a book, because I'm finding that I'll reveal to you again a personal secret. I'm not very good at writing about other people. I'm not very good because sometimes I feel that I'm somehow betraying their confidence if without their knowledge or without, I write about them. So I always try to involve them in the writing process as much as possible. And there are not many cases as such, you see, but it's people whose example I take as a great example just to support my work. But I do not collect individual cases, like such as cases. Over the years, I have become a little bit more wary about that. And you will understand why. It's because when you respect a person, you respect their story, and you respect that they want to share it in their own way, sometimes even with their own words. So we have to be careful with the lived experience of people. But here's a wonderful story that I could relate to from my heart. And I tell you another little secret. Even though it was someone else's story, I intertwined it because it's so related a little bit to myself that I embellished it a little bit with some personal elements. But you forgive me for that. So this story has to do with a young lady whose name is Jana, and she's from the former Yugoslavia. She actually was from there. So it is an actual person who are so, and this happened about 10 years ago. Jenna, at that time, she came in 2000. There was horrible suffering in Yugoslavia that many of you may know about. There was a war. There was a war in that Serbia unleashed on Bosnia and Kosovo and parts of Croatia and parts of Slovenia. So there were massacres happening in Bosnia where this lady came from. She lost some of her family members in that war. And she had some family out here in Canada. So she came with help from relatives. When I summarized this in the book, of course, it resonated with me because I came also from the same country, and I came also with help from other people. So, but she said to me, and she came to see me. At that time, I worked at a very busy counseling center. And how it was is that every person had about 45 minutes. After the time was up, oops, next person, next person, next person. There were about 7, 8 people in a day. It doesn't sound like very many, but I was very young at the time. So for me, it was a very heavy workload at that time. But so I related to her when she said, I lost my uncle. I lost one of my brothers. And she started to cry. How can I go on in life if I have lost so much? How can I continue in life? And many times I have observed this with some of the other people who came to see me, that sometimes they would say things about in the past that were very, very sad things. And so sad that they make me cry. And sometimes, I'll tell you another secret. Sometimes therapists say that therapy should not be crying. It's not true. It's not true. When we are really authentically with a person, it's okay to have tears. It's okay to cry. So I said to Jenna, I'm very sorry to hear about the loss of your parents, your close friend, your older brother. They were really close to you and very precious to you. And I'm sure that you miss them a lot. So she was sobbing, and of course, I gave her tissue paper. However, I continued, I'm glad to see that the legacy of your loved ones was entrusted to someone who was able to carry their courageous example with her into this beautiful and free land. So you see, we go from the past, we come to the present. We are taking something from the past, we are bringing it into the present, but not with the intention to just remain mourning, but we are going to now explore the meaning of grief. And we are going to go a little bit deeper, understanding why the tears are all right, why the tears are in place. What do the tears mean to a person? So we say, I begin with a bit of modification of attitudes to orient her towards what is left. I use the Socratic dialogue and I say, I'd like to ask you something. Can someone take this spirit and snatch it from you? Can someone erase the legacy of your loved ones? No, no one can do this. What they have accomplished, can that ever be erased? No, that cannot be erased. What your loved ones have accomplished, even how they suffered, even how they died, can that ever be erased from the world? No. So that means that your loved ones have accomplished, no one can take away. No one can annihilate. No one can take away from you. For in your heart, their legacy remains, right? And there she became very thoughtful and she said, yes, I can see what you mean. Are you saying that in a way, exactly because I'm sad, I choose to hang on to the memory of my parents? Yes, perhaps that's exactly what I meant. Dr. Lucas has a wonderful book. And in that book, she says, in the grief, love lives on. In grief, love lives on. Our love does not have to end. Love carries us on. And this love that we have through the spirit, through the dimension of the spirit, we can be with people that we choose to be with. So we can be in our spirit with them. And in this situation, their legacy was entrusted to her to carry on. And now we go to her area of freedom. What is she going to do with this legacy? How is she going to nurture it? How is she going to relate to it? So the decision has to do with how you want to nurture this legacy. It has to do with what you do with the legacy of your loved ones. As you continue in your life, you are the only one who can determine what you want to remain after your loved ones who have died. What will remain after them? Whether what remains after them would be a garden full of beautiful flowers, only you can determine that. Or a lake of bitterness, you're in charge of that. And her response was wonderful. And she said, or perhaps I can use my tears to water a garden of flowers. And she said this with a smile, a little smile. She said, I can use my tears to water the garden and raise some flowers. And that's where the ice was broken, because that's where we came to the future then, and the present of what she's going to do then, what possibilities are open. And so furthermore, to illustrate this point, I drew a little illustration that I show you here. I like to make these little sketches on paper. And we do this as we do the counseling session, right? I just, improvise it. I put certain things that they say. Here, the first triangle is what Frankl termed the triad of suffering, the death that one experiences, guilt that one may experience, pain that one may experience. And then we illustrate another triangle on the top of the first triangle, where one's area of freedom is, through the three avenues that Frankl outlined that lead us to values, that lead us to finding meaning. These are through creative values, actualizing experiential values, or attitudinal values. So everything that she can do and give to the world that would be appropriate if it's in harmony with her conscience, harmony with what is valuable, worthwhile, beautiful, true, and good in the world, to keep accumulating those things, that thereby honor the legacy of those who could no longer do those things on earth. Keep honoring their legacy through that. Experiential values is through relating to nature, relating to others, relates to what we take from the world. The love that we offer, the love that we choose to give, the love that we choose to live, the love that we choose to leave as our legacy in the world. The love that we take, the love that we offer, the love that we leave in the world as our legacy. And the attitudinal values is the third area. Everything that in our spirit is a courageous, brave attitude toward those events that represent suffering, the facts of fate, those things that we have no control over, that we cannot change. So when I put together the star, she looked at it briefly and she said to me, she said, when I have seen other people, they have always talked to me about what I cannot do. You're the first one who is talking to me about what I can do. And then from then on, I did not see this lady for some time. She said to me that she was feeling much better, and I did not see her for a couple of months. Later, I got a message that she was enrolled to nursing school, and I assumed that she became a nurse. And this is what, according to current research, is categorized as not only not a victim of circumstances, but a survivor of the past, a survivor, and not just a survivor, but a super survivor. Super survivors are people who are not only surviving something, but they offer from their own inner treasure an understanding, an in-depth understanding that exactly because they have been through these situations, they have gained wisdom and knowledge that not many people may have around them, or other people may not exactly understand those situations because they have been there, they know it, and they offer this knowledge. They're able to transmute it into a triumph, into helping someone else. And research found, this is current research, found that self-transcendence, resilience, and a compassionate attitude, reaching out to others, help to build us up after trauma and mediates meaning. In other words, that there are ways of finding meaning, ways of responding meaningfully to trauma. Sometimes one doesn't need to go way back into the past and analyze too much childhood. Only to the extent that it is meaningful and necessary, we do that. For example, in this case, we underlined the importance of her relationship to the uncle, the parents, the brother, how they were, what kind of people they were, what she learned from them, what is it that she would choose never to forget about them. And that was valuable to bring into the present. But we didn't need to dig into negatives. We didn't need to dwell on other things from the past. We could quickly come to the present and then to the future. And this is characteristic of logotherapy, to meaningfully integrate the past with the present and orient people toward a future that they can meaningfully create. This is done through the resources of the human spirit, where the counselor or the therapist encourages the will to meaning, reaches to the resources of the human spirit, such as gratitude, thankfulness, forgiveness, love beyond the physical, conscience, and the defiant power of the human spirit. In other words, when we evoke these strengths and these powers of the human spirit, we help people say yes to life and regain this unconditional trust in being, in this unconditional being, unconditional meaning, trust in meaning, that there is meaning in life and they are personally awaited, important, and personally known and wanted, precious in life. We communicate that through our understanding and through our being. This is the task of the logotherapist. Thank you very much for your attention.
Maria, wow, your presentation was great. You touched my heart, really.
I'm glad if I did. You're very precious to me, and all the students of Leticia are very precious to me. You carry a very precious legacy of Viktor Frankl's logotherapy in your heart. And that is a legacy that has been derived and chiseled and perfected through great suffering. This is what is handed to us. So it's a marvelous torch to carry, a wonderful torch to carry. And we add to it from our own experience. Life calls us to carry it. And that's how we increase the flame. Sometimes the flame is just a spark. Nevertheless, it is a flame. And we can choose to ignite someone else's little spark with the spark that comes from the heart.
Yes, it is. It is a big, big compromise with this philosophy of life.
Yes, yes.
Thank you very much. It was beautiful experience meeting you, and thank you very much for sharing a piece of your life. I really, really appreciate it, Maria.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Goodbye to all of you. Thank you very much, Lorena. Bye-bye.
Meeting you. Bye-bye.
Nice meeting you. Bye-bye.
Bye.